Thanks to UT Motorsports in Walcheren, Switzerland, I had the chance to test the new Husqvarna 801 Svartpilen. I took the bike out for a total of 3 days. On my first impression, the build quality really sticks out. The gaps join up really nicely, which I'm not always used to seeing on the KTM bikes. All in all, it gives a solid impression with a love for small details. Personally, I really like the design. I'm quite a Husqvarna fanboy. I actually own 3 Husqvarnas and I ride Husqvarna mainly because I'm not particularly fan of the KTM design. So this is quite a nice alternative. But then again, design is very subjective and tastes are very different. The seat is very comfortable. The cushioning is quite soft that invites for taking long rides. Perhaps you could think that it looks a little bit like a scrambler, but it rides completely different than a scrambler. The seating position is actually very sporty, which means there's quite a little bit of leaning over the tank, especially for me with short arms. I always felt a little bit like I'm stretched out, leaning forward. But I've seen taller people sit on it and they don't feel that at all. And because also I come off of a supermoto and enduro, I am accustomed to sitting quite upright. So this took quite some time for me to get used to. And I felt like I was slipping forward and sitting more inside the gap between the seat and the tank. But if you slide a little bit back, it gets really comfortable. We set the handlebars back and that made quite a difference. At a body height of 164 centimeters, I felt like I could touch the ground okay with my tiptoes as usual, and it was nice and flickable in the standing position. Also, I think the bike is very nicely balanced. Riding through traffic, it really felt like I could easily come to a standstill and balance it, which was quite nice. A small detail I noticed was that I really liked the feeling of the side stand. I felt a lot like I'm sitting on the bike rather than in the bike. The sporty seating position gives a very good feeling for the front wheel. I found that the menu on the display was really easy to switch through. Even though I had no introduction, I just worked my way through the menu and it was really simple actually. Is that you can actually switch off most of the modes. So you can go to supermoto mode where the ABS is switched off and traction control you can switch off. And then it has a memory effect. So if you switch off the motorbike and then switch it on again, it still has the same modes, which I've experienced on other bikes, that's a little bit of a pain that every time you have to put her in the mode you wanted again. Then there is a cruise control available for the bike, but it wasn't on this one, but I would highly recommend. Just to relax the wrist sometimes on a stretch going through a village or on the highway or wherever I can put on cruise control. I like to put on cruise control on street bikes. I wouldn't want to go without anymore if I don't have to. The display is in a good position that it's always visible and it's quite bright, so I never had problems to be able to see anything. All the buttons are in good reach. Still, they didn't get in my way while riding, so I didn't touch anything unintentionally. The key position seems like it wouldn't interfere with a tank bag. At the heart of the bike lies a wonderful 2-cylinder engine with great low-end grunt right from the bottom. At 105 horses, there is plenty of power available to get an instant adrenaline rush. Accompanied by the sound of the optional Remus exhaust, this gives the bike a really nice flavor. What's crazy about this bike, it has a reverse gear, so you can ride backwards on it. I bet you fell for that one. No, actually not. I was just kidding. The suspension is rather plush. I guess it's designed for country roads, but you could also stiffen it up, I guess, because it's fully adjustable to take it on a racetrack. But then when it got really bumpy on the really bad roads, then it got quite unstable and I was bouncing around a lot. I think I could live with the cable clutch because it has a quick shifter, which works remarkably good. But I do prefer hydraulic clutches, they just have a better feel to them. And when I was pushing through traffic, I noticed that it takes quite some muscle to pull the clutch. And then if trying to wheelie the bike, then I think a hydraulic clutch always beats a cable clutch. Ground clearance is sufficient, and you could even lower the bike by about 3 centimeters for people with shorter legs. One of my viewers asked in the comments if the camshaft is still a problem on these bikes. The mechanic assured me that the camshaft problem has been solved years ago and this shouldn't be an issue anymore. Its nimbleness shows when flicking it through twisty mountain roads. Nevertheless, it stays stable on high speeds and ensures confidence. I guess if I would have to put out the complaint, it would be the brakes. They take a lot of muscle power. But then again, at the price point that this bike comes in, I've ridden more expensive bikes with worse brakes. All in all, I think it's a great bang for the buck, especially if you're looking for a motorbike in this category of naked bikes, and perhaps you don't like the looks of the KTM bike so much, so this could be a nice alternative.